For decades, the baseline advice for keeping an aging brain sharp has been incredibly consistent: eat more plants and cut back on the meat. But that advice runs into a major complication when you look at the APOE4 gene. APOE4 is a specific genetic variant involved in fat metabolism that carries the highest known risk for developing late-onset Alzheimer's disease. A 2026 study tracked over 2,000 older adults in Sweden for 15 years, and the data showed something completely unexpected. For people carrying this specific high-risk gene, following the standard eat less meat rule actually accelerated their cognitive declines. The findings come from the SNAC-K longitudinal aging study conducted by researchers at the Karolinska Institute in Stockholm. SNAC-K is a population-based research project that tracks how medical and lifestyle factors affect older adults over decades. The results indicate that broad public health recommendations aren't universally beneficial. For a genetically defined minority, adhering strictly to a low-meat diet deprives their brains of the exact nutrients they need to function. To understand why this happens, it helps to look at human DNA as a biological engine. Different models of this engine evolved at different times, requiring completely different types of fuel. The APOE4 variant is version 1.0, evolving millions of years ago when ancestors relied on hunting, built for animal protein and fats. The APOE3 variant, version 2.0, emerged 200,000 years ago alongside agriculture, giving metabolic flexibility to digest plant-based foods. Problems arise when you put modern, plant-heavy fuel into an ancient, meat-adapted engine. The version 1.0 biology simply doesn't have the metabolic pathways to efficiently extract what it needs from a low-meat diet. There is no universally healthy diet. A food is only optimal if it matches the specific evolutionary requirements of your genetic hardware. We can see this play out in the data for the roughly 70% of the population carrying the newer version 2.0 genetics. This graph plots cognitive health over 15 years. For the version 2.0 group, increasing meat consumption had zero impact, maintaining their baseline trajectory. But for high meat eating version 1.0 carriers, their trajectory corrects upward. The risk of developing dementia plummeted by 55%. The researchers also looked at overall lifespan and found this same high meat group experienced a 15% reduction in all-cause mortality. In these high meat consumers, the expected genetic disadvantage in cognitive aging was essentially absent, bringing their trajectories in line with low-risk participants. The study certainly does not conclude that eating unlimited quantities of steak is a cure for cognitive decline. The data identified a very specific optimal dosage, 870 grams a week. That breaks down to about 4.5 ounces a day, which is slightly smaller than an average chicken breast. The cognitive benefits were also strictly limited to unprocessed cuts of meat and fish. Diets high in processed items like bacon, hot dogs, and deli slices universally increased the risk of dementia across all participants, regardless of genetics. The intervention acts more like a precise medical prescription. The neuroprotection requires strict adherence to the quality of the protein, not just the sheer volume. Before overhauling a grocery list, it is necessary to evaluate exactly how this data was collected. This was an observational study. Research of this type is highly effective at identifying strong correlations over time, but it cannot definitively prove the underlying biological mechanism causing the effect. The researchers also had to rely on self-reported food diaries from the participants. This method is inherently subject to human error, memory lapses, and the tendency of people to misjudge portion sizes. The findings expose a significant blind spot in current nutritional advice, but large-scale, controlled clinical trials will need to verify the results before official government health guidelines are updated. Broad dietary guidelines are being replaced by data that focuses on specific genetic requirements. Testing for your APOE genetic status doesn't have to be a grim medical prediction. It is essentially acquiring the ultimate owner's manual for your brain. If you carry the version 1.0 gene, consuming a daily 4.5-ounce serving of unprocessed meat or fish serves as a vital biological maintenance tool. The future of proactive brain health and longevity relies on precision. It requires matching your daily fuel directly to the ancient requirements of your specific DNA.